156 years ago, slavery in the United States was abolished. From 1619 to roughly 1865, slave owners abused, stole humans from their home, raped many, and made life miserable for all of those working on their land. Once abolished, those who suffered were to receive 40 acres of land. Instead, after this proposition was seemingly going to happen, Andrew Johnson, whom took over for Lincoln, squashed the deal. Today, the land proposed to free slaves at the time totals approximately $6.1 trillion. The United States is historically a nation not particularly forthcoming, and in some cases intentionally forgetful, regarding their own atrocities committed over time. From taking Native Americans' land to slavery, keeping Japanese in a concentration camp during World War II, and other shameful events, America slowly picks and chooses who should receive reparations. Back in 1946, Native Americans were given, collectively, and based on their lineage, $1.3 billion. But when one looks closely at the fine print, each recipient only received about $1,000, while the bulk of funds was put into the United States trust accounts. These accounts have been reported to be mismanaged. The Native Americans never received an official apology from America until 2009. In 1988, the Civil Liberties Act, signed into effect by then-President Ronald Reagan, made it possible for more Japanese camp victims and their families to receive $20,000. But since the Civil Liberties Act has been around, no one has made a move to focus on reparations for African American descendants of slaves. The Rosewood Massacre of 1923 saw the destruction of an affluent African American Floridian town at the hands of racist mobs. Later, the state, not the feds or Congress, paid $2.1 million in reparations for the horrific event. And who can forget the dreaded Tuskegee experiment, when approximately 399 black men with syphilis were left untreated to study the progression of the disease from 1932 until 1972. Eventually, the United States government reached a $10 million settlement agreement with victims and their families in 1974. In 2014, $178,000 was given to men in the study who had syphilis, another $72,000 for their heirs, and $77,000 for those in the control group, plus $24,000 for heirs of those in the control group. One of the least remembered United States gaffes regarding reparations came in 1927, when the Supreme Court gave the practice of Buck versus Bell to go through. Ultimately, 33 states utilized the practice by forcibly sterilizing about 65,000 plus people throughout the 1970s. Shockingly, Oregon continued to sterilize people as late as 1981, and its Board of Social Protection, from 1967, was rid of as late as 1983. Hardly any states have yet to apologize. Only South Carolina has attempted reparations for this behavior with a $10 million payout program to those affected. This number essentially equates to $50,000 per each of the 177 living victims. Among those deemed mentally ill and unfit for society, many African American women were included in the group. Other nations have agreed on reparations for their suffering victims throughout history. Germany, for example, over time, paid $89 billion to survivors of the Holocaust by 2012. So why the hang-up? There is still a tremendous financial gap between white and black families' income. Whites get higher-paying jobs, mostly white men. Blacks often find themselves working multiple jobs to keep up. When reparations are mentioned, there are three main negative reactions. First, there is, as Christopher Hitchens claimed, a white whine when the notion is mentioned. White whine means some white Americans take offense for being asked to examine reparations, as they, quote, had nothing to do with it, quote, it was years ago, quote, blacks were saved from Africa and brought to America to live better lives, and so on. Excuses. White whine. Ignore the atrocities and let African Americans continue to live the American dream. Secondly, some in the African American community feel reparations is another means for their culture and people to rely on white government for money, and prefer to pull up their bootstraps and help themselves. Some feel reparations are charity, a handout. And thirdly, it's apparent the Feds, Congress, and most of the U.S. government as a whole have no plans set in motion for reparations. Too much red tape, too much resistance and lack of empathy. The country would basically prefer the free labor from slaves rather than focus with communities and African leaders struggling to make ends meet. Maybe college debt should be forgiven for the descendants of slaves. Maybe yearly benefit checks can be provided. Or maybe, just maybe, instead of printing more money and signing off on half-baked checks, the answer to reparations can come from Bitcoin and the crypto market itself. Why rely and wait this long for the United States to get on the same page with those mistreated, abused, and forced to work endless hours? If the government can't do this, why not crypto? As more altcoins and crypto in general are finding new ways to help communities through their development and sales, Bitcoin and others could find the proper landscape projects to finally provide those who suffered what they're rightly owed. Bitcoin, Ethereum, blockchain all have the abilities to better businesses throughout their transparency while strengthening global transactions faster. With Bitcoin reparations, each recipient has the opportunity to save and watch their assets grow, cash out, pay off debts, start businesses, and improve communities. An opportunity for a great crypto investment will prove more beneficial than a government check, which could have strings attached. Level the playing field. Let everyone entitled to reparations have a say in how their money is received and utilized. Bitcoin reparations has tremendous potential to bypass big government. In tackling this issue, the crypto market may also flourish. It'll be taken way more seriously and introduce new communities to join the market and get involved. Sure, the amount of crypto received and with what coin would all need to be figured out. Yet, this could all happen faster than anything the government itself can do. It's time for Bitcoin to truly show its endless potential for helping to support those forgotten and ignored. Descendants of slaves have always deserved better, and if the United States, the very country responsible for stealing humans from their homeland, can't even apologize nor strategize ways to give reparations, Bitcoin and crypto itself may be the best and most sensible option.